Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Just My Stupid Opinion. I'm Adrian Lloyd. So, I think we're all a little bit in a bit of shock of what we saw over this past weekend, conducted by the police in here in Ottawa. Um, Honestly, I don't think this may have been one of the worst examples of any form of police brutality that I've seen in Canada in a very long time. There are always situations where police brutality ends up taking place, but I don't think I've seen it so blatantly displayed and on such a grand scale, while at the same time seeing such cover up happening all simultaneously. Um on the 18th, when all this really ended up starting to take place, I happened to be at work and I just happened to catch it because there happened to be just an update that popped up on my phone that was explaining what was going on about police crackdown. Like, the Google News, that they come with the phones. It just gives you articles that pop up. So I ended up going online and started to check out what the hell was going on. And I was shocked by the videos that I was seeing, and it only got worse when on Saturday the 19th ended up when what happened on the 19th, it only ended up getting worse. But the thing that shocked me too, as I've already stated, was the fact that while this was going on, I was paying attention to the Ottawa Police's Twitter account. And it was the things that they were saying, which you can see taking place in the videos, that were just blatantly untrue by what they would then state. Anyway, so because of this, I ended up deciding that I was going to take some time and try and document some of the worst cases that was ended up happening, and I've ended up doing that. I haven't really mentioned it much, if at all, but I just got my stupid little blogspot website where I sometimes write some things. There is some crossover with what I talk about on here. Not all the time, but plenty of times there's some crossover. So, if you wanted to have a catalog list of a lot of the abuses that took place, probably not all of it, there was a lot that ended up happening, but all of the big ones, then I have the link in the description. You can go there. I have embedded a lot of the videos of what we ended up seeing place, and I ended up archiving them. I put them up on the Wayback Machine, so that way, even if Twitter accounts are taken down for whatever reason, whether it's talking about this or something else, or videos are deleted by Twitter because they've been asked to, or because they're not want to document it, then I have links to everything that is in that blog spot. I have it up on Wayback Machine. Oop, wrong one. Hold on. 1 second. Give me a second. There we go. So, as you can kind of take a look through, we're going to take a look through, maybe not all, but a lot of these videos that are here. But yeah, on the 18th, I was at work and I ended up seeing what was ending up happening. So as soon as as soon as I saw what was going on, I got out of work. Well, not immediately. My shift was almost done. I finished up my shift, and then I went home, grabbed some food, and went off to downtown to show my support for the people that were there and everything that was ended up happening. But anyway, I wanted to go through a lot of what was ended up happening. I One thing about this that I really was surprised about is a lot of what ended up happening when the things that these cops did when they knew cameras were running. People were holding cameras right in front of them, but they didn't care. They did not care at all. They were willing to do a lot of this. But it's also what was caught behind the scenes when they didn't realize that people were filming them. That is also pretty bad. Anyway, so this is probably a lot of this probably everyone's seen, but I still want to go through it because I can't stress enough how serious of a situation this is. I've already stated here, I've also stated in the writing that I do on this blog, that the thing about the Freedom Convoy is that it's the last attempt of people trying to get their voices heard in a non-violent way. This was also something that was being explicitly lied about by the Ottawa Police's Twitter account, is that they kept talking about how violent the protesters were to the police when we can see the opposite taking place on video. So here's one of the first ones.
That's a wounded veteran! Yep, that's a wounded warrior right there! They gotta see his fucking head! That
Well, the thing, as you kind of heard them say on video, is this guy was a wounded veteran. From what I've heard about this guy, he was a Canadian veteran in Afghanistan who was badly hurt by, I think it was a roadside bomb, a lot of chronic pain since then. And that was the police that were kneeing him. And it was more than that they ended up doing. He was actually interviewed. Viva Frey has been in Ottawa documenting what has ended up happening. And he found this guy and he spoke to him. Because the thing was, too, about when it was interesting is that it turns out a lot of the arrests that the cops made, there were a lot of catch and releases. So a lot of the people that ended up getting arrested were released a few hours later with no charges. And he was one of them. But he ends up speaking about what happened that we couldn't see. And I thought it was very interesting that they can beat this man in front of all these protesters. And when the protesters are trying to get the police to stop, the cops are forming a barrier and telling them to get back. But anyway.
So I was in the protesters' line, holding the line very peacefully. I had just holding the line. The police grabbed me, they pulled me down. They meet me in the back, they meet me in the side, they kicked me. When I was down, the police, they barricaded themselves so they couldn't see me behind. They hit me 4 or 5 times in the head. My hands were completely up. I was not violent one bit. They tied my hands behind my back. I was there for 2 minutes. They pushed my head in the snow. They put their knee on my back. They put something against my face so I couldn't hear or see something or what was going on. They then lifted me up. They put me into a processing line where I was zip tied behind my hands behind my back for 2 hours, standing out in the freezing cold. I couldn't sit down. I couldn't kneel down. I have a broken foot. I had broken foot, broken ankle, broken hip, broken back. I have many injuries, and they did not listen to them. They then proceeded to process us, take our information, put us in the paddy wagon, let me know that I wasn't being charged with anything. It was my lucky day, and of course I knew that I was being charged with anything because this is ridiculous, because I was doing nothing wrong. And then they put us in the paddy wagon, drove us around to confuse us for a little bit. They dumped us in an undisclosed location with just our possessions. We didn't know where we were.
The injuries you're describing were prior to this.
Yes, those are 13 years ago when I was brought up in Afghanistan.
There were 4 people in the vehicle. I'll take over, Chris.
But yeah, this is the type of abuse that they were subjecting a lot of veterans to. There's more videos of veterans that are being pulled down from the crowd. But some of the worst abuses, I would say, were committed on the 18th there. The first day, the Friday, some of the worst abuses were, but it seemed they were more numerous on the Saturday, the 19th, from what I could see. They were happening on a much wider scale, but it was much more brutal, a lot of what took place on the 18th, because here's another nasty one that ended. This one was happening to a woman. I'm sure this one was making the rounds, so I'm sure a lot of you know about it, but it's this woman right here with the backpack, the gray backpack, and what they ended up doing to her. So they're trying to pull her away. And this is the thing. You don't see a lot of these protesters, if any, actually engaging the cops. They're actually, if anything, they are trying to prevent the cops from pulling them away, but they're not punching or anything. But here's where the abuse takes place. Pay attention in the back, and you can see the cop is beating her with the stock of his gun. after he pulls it down. So this cop right behind the sign, I know it's a bit blurry with the quality and everything, but you can still see it.
Jump on that line next to 22. Hey, you don't have to hit him with that.
In many of these situations, if not all these situations, when they're pulling people away such as this, they are down on the ground, they're no longer a threat, they are surrounded by multiple cops who are holding them down, they don't pose a threat to anybody. A lot of these cops have a sick, sadistic pleasure that they get out of doing this to people. Our mentality that we have and the mentality of a lot of police are not the same. There are a lot of cops who relish on the idea of getting in a fight with a suspect because they get to put the beat down on them. And that's what I find that when there's big events like this, big protests or riots, these are the type of cops that are attracted to these events. They end up not even having to be asked, but they will willingly put their name in to be able to go to these events just for the possibility of smashing someone's face onto the floor, onto the ground, onto the concrete. And this is what we're seeing take place in this event. Here's another one of a man who's lying on the ground, happened on live TV, and just how the cops are beating on him
with their trucks, if that is indeed their livelihood. I think we're seeing another arrest there.
Yeah,
right?
I was just going to interject there and just say, yes, I want to bring to our viewers' attention that we're watching live images right now of what is happening in Ottawa, and it appears that there is another arrest. As Rosemary also mentioned, we're watching officers, law enforcement, start moving in physically.
This is the thing from the news clips that I have seen of these abuses taking place that also enrages me, is the fact that the newscasters are downplaying what we are seeing. They're not sitting there saying, like, it's not just that arrests are happening, but they are watching as a man is on the ground getting kneed repeatedly and beat down, and they're not commenting on it. They're just making it seem like it's a normal arrest, as if they got someone on the ground, they're putting them in handcuffs, and that's it. Here we have two women standing in front of the line that didn't do anything, that ended up getting pepper sprayed. A lot of this that ended up taking place. Over and over again, there were people that were just standing there that were abused. Lee Stewie there, she was on the ground a lot for this whole event. And then probably the most famous of everything that ended up taking place, which once again, it's shocking the way that the Ottawa police were trying to downplay this. So they send in these mounted police. I'm sure all of you have seen this by now.
Come on through. Come on through. What is happening here? Wow. What is this lady doing? Trampling horses. Trampling. Stop it. Stop it. Oh my God. They just trampled this lady. They just trampled that lady. They just fully trampled that lady. They just fully trampled that lady. Here's the lady. Here's the lady that was trampled.
This was probably the most aggressive that any of the protesters were at any one time that day. This is all taking place on the 18th right now. Was this event right here where they trampled a woman. And it's the protesters trying to get to her while the police are trying to hold them back. And we have an overhead view of that. We can see right here. We've got the lady that is on the ground. The police are trying to claim that someone threw a bike at them when it was this lady was a mobility scooter or a walker or something. It looks like it's a mobility scooter. And they're trying to claim that the protesters threw this at the horse. Well, they got a horse stepping on a man over here. Here's the tweet by them. We heard your concerns for people on the ground after the horses dispersed the crowd. Anyone who fell got up and walked away. We're unaware of any injuries. A bicycle was thrown at the horse further down the line and caused the horse to trip. The horse was uninjured. Now, so far, there was rumors that the woman died, but she has survived this. There was a tweet put out by her family in which they had a picture of her. She was injured in the event and had to go to the hospital, and I'm sure that guy too, the one who's underneath the horse, had to as well. But it's been the downplaying of this from the Ottawa police right from start to finish. And then we have one of a man being beat while he's inside of the police cruiser.
Punch.
Oh my God!
And
Oh my God!
And they don't even know they're being recorded.
Oh my
Oh
God!
my God. I get he doesn't want to go in, but oh my God.
He's still going at him.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 police officers on one.
They take every opportunity to beat someone's face in, and it's always worse whenever they don't think anyone's recording. We see it play out a few times over this weekend where they don't realize they're being filmed. They think they're behind the lines. There's no cameras there, but there happens to be someone who's just in the right spot or a camera that's in the right spot, and this is the type of thing we see play out over and over again. This is just a picture that I ended up snapping later on in the evening time. This was after all the events, and basically they had riot cops that had the line. You can kind of see them in the background. Maybe I can zoom in a little bit. Yeah, they're just holding the line here between the Chateau Laurier, splitting off from about where the war memorial is, and cutting off the route to Rideau Street. So where Wellington turns into Rideau Street. And nothing really took place after this. You know, it was just they were standing there, a lot of yelling and jeering and shouting and chanting from us in the crowd. Now, this was the next day. This is right as things sort of took off, you know. The police ended up lining up at the end there. What you're seeing, the building you're seeing here is the Prime Minister's office, and they sort of ended up back there, but they were moving aggressively this day. And this was Dan Dix that was here.
What's your badge number? They brought back the new squad.
You are on this side right now. You may be on the other side in 5 years. Our Canadian tax dollars at work, guys, right here.
Now, I want you to focus on what's happening right now on both sides with the crowd and the riot police. It's sort of off camera when this happens, but you can see that the police are lined up. They were advancing on the protesters, and the protesters were moving back. There's a number of live streams that happened that day that you can see that for yourself. I was watching Dan Dick's live stream when this was all going on. But you can see that the crowd is just standing there. The police are just standing there, and what's going to end up happening.
You have lots of money, but you're lost in your house.
My daughter not protected by some bullshit.
Can the money give you freedom?
And you guys are gonna fucking take us down for that? Fuck all of you.
Things are getting rather intense here in Ottawa.
You guys need the money that bad. You're gonna kick the shit out of us.
They have heavy enforcements
The money's
out.
so valuable to you.
Looking like they're getting ready to clamp down on these truckers and protesters. I'm currently live. Holy shit. What was that? Oh shit. That was really loud. That was very loud and scary. Oh my god.
Fucking flag grenades, right?
Holy. Guys, they got flash grenades going off here.
Now, despite any sort of claims, like they were saying, that was a flash grenade from the sound of it, the Ottawa police ended up tweeting out very soon after this, because I ended up going over to the Twitter account and I saw this, and I think we got to hear. The loud noise you heard was from officers on the line. It was used to resolve an unsafe situation. This tweet came, when I saw it, they had just posted it. It was only a couple minutes old, And it was right after this event, so the police were admitting this. But what they end up doing is they go on trying to claim that a lot of what the police are doing is what the protesters were doing. They were trying to claim that the protesters were using gas against the police. But there are multiple times throughout different live streams, including this one, where you could see that the gas, which was most likely smoke, I don't think at this point they were using tear gas, although I do believe that they ended up doing it eventually. Maybe even a bit after this. But you could see it being dispersed in the crowd of the protesters and not being dispersed along the lines of the police, which would be the case. It would be the case if they were, if it was the protesters that were using it. And we got more a little later on in the event.
Hey, put that gun down! It's in people's faces! This guy!
They're advancing very hard. They're pushing right through past the trucks. They're pushing right through past the trucks, guys. This is getting very intense. Look at them. Pushing this old man. I got slammed earlier.
What the fuck is fucking
This is heavy-handed.
This is fucking insane. This is fucking... You guys they must love this shit. These guys are psychopaths, man. These guys are all psychopaths. You're all fucking...
I'm live, guys. I'm live right now. Come tune in live. Catch all the action.
Now, you heard Dan there say he got slammed earlier. This is what he was talking about. At one point, he found himself between the crowd. He found himself between the protesters and the police line, and then the police started advancing. And this is what
Okay. I'm trying. Shit. Okay, I was just brutally attacked. Ow. Oh, God. Holy. Oh, shit. Oh, God. Oh, they're getting trampled. Oh, this is brutal. Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it. There's some sort of gas in the air. I just took a baton to my ribs. That was brutal. Some guy just, oh my God.
So you can even hear on the video and see it on the video that he's attempting to move back, and this is the response of the police to jam one of their batons into his ribs. And the thing was too is actually, I think maybe it was, I can't remember if it was the night before or the morning of this event, the Ottawa police had tweeted out that that because of violence the previous day, they were equipping the cops with wooden batons and helmets, which they didn't have the day before. But we've already seen from the videos that we have, and from many of the live streams that day, that the protesters explicitly went out of their way not to be violent. And this is all what I was talking about earlier, about the, this is all what I was talking about earlier, about how the police were saying one thing, and then you could see the opposite was taking place in the videos themselves. So just the blatant lies that were coming out over and over and over, it was just infuriating that they were trying to gaslight everyone when all you had to do was flip on your phone to the dozens of live streams that they're out there, and you could see that the opposite was true. So before we watch that one, I just want to quickly go to this one. This is, again, we can see that gas grenades are being dispersed among the crowd. Once again, the police were claiming that it was You can see it being dispersed amongst the crowd. Once again, the police were claiming that it was the protesters that had gas grenades. They claimed that they had arrested somebody with gas grenades, but, you know, no videos or anything to prove that. But here's the one that, and then here's a video of the protesters having to kick it back towards the police.
Fuckers! You fuckers! Move out!
So I don't see why the protesters would have the gas can on the ground in front of them if they were the one launching it into where the police were. But here's a particular nasty one. This was Alexandra LeVay or whatever from Rebel News, and when she was shot.
Turn your back and look like you're gonna move. You're not gonna deny me the right to look at a man. Watch out! Watch out!
Which, first of all, once again, going into this narrative that the protesters are violent ones, you can see the police make the first move in this situation.
You're not gonna deny me the right.
This guy right here. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but this guy, with his face fully covered, he goes in.
Watch out! Watch out!
Gives the police an excuse to advance.
Watch out! What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Hold him! Stop! Stop! Keep him! Keep him! You just fired at protesters! You just fired at protesters!
Cross-checking, which is not even allowed in the NHL, but this is the way they're behaving. Now, I don't think it was caught on her camera here, but there is another stream where it's caught, and there's stills of it. But when you hear her scream like this, it's because she was shot with, it's not exactly clear, but it seems to be it was a gun that was shooting out a gas canister. Maybe it was non-lethal rounds, possibly, but in a minute you can see that more gas is being, probably smoke, is being right around her after this event. You can see that it's coming up. Hold on. Yeah, there it is. You can see it right now. So she was shot in the leg by this guy here. This is a still from the live stream of her when she got shot by this cop, and then you can see that she's got her injury there. So that was a deliberate shot right at her. I don't know whether he was targeting her because she was from Rebel News, or whether or I think it was more likely that he was just targeting someone, but a deliberate shot at them. And this just continues throughout the day. It's more and more and more of this. I almost feel like I'm just being repetitive talking about all this, but here's a guy being pinned against this as they're just beating on him. We've got the police pepper spraying the crowd indiscriminately.
Behind us, look how much space they have to go here. Right behind us is
and then this one's a little ironic because when the New York Times announced that the police were clearing out the protesters at gunpoint, a lot of Canadian news got very upset about this and saying that they were wrong, when we can see right here that this is exactly what they're doing. There were plenty of pictures of cops with their rifles, using it as an intimidation technique, and even using it to threaten some of the protesters. Like you can see here, this is some CBC dumb bitch. You got this here. And here's probably the last one I'm just going to quickly show. But again, this is another one of behind the scenes where they don't think anyone's watching. Here's a tweet on the same day. Protesters continue to be aggressive and assault on officers. They are refusing to comply with orders to move. You will have seen officers use a chemical irritant in an effort to stop the assaultive behaviors and for officer safety. Jesus Christ. So that was a documentation of their behavior. And the thing is, through numerous live streams, you can see that a lot of this behavior by the police is unnecessary. When they move forward, the protesters were moving back. They didn't have to fight them in order to do this. The only time there was a bit of a fight, really, was when things got a little clogged up and they couldn't all just move back. But you can see explicit times, especially on what was going on that Saturday, that their actions were unnecessary. And the thing is that a lot of what is happening since then has been a personal vendetta by the government against the people. See, the whole point of this was to be a large, non-violent rally, so that way people's voices couldn't be ignored. But now we're hearing stories about how the government is going after people who have supported the convoy, given them money. There was one from a Conservative MP, Stahl, who was saying that some woman gave $50 to the convoy when it was legal, before they said it was an unlawful protest. And she had her bank accounts frozen by the government. There's the people at the iconic cafe that are being targeted by this whole situation. The police were explicitly coming to them, and they could possibly have charges put against them because they were feeding the protesters. They were giving them coffee and food, and no problems there. But I'm willing to bet that they'll go after the people at the iconic cafe, but they're not going to go after the Tim Hortons in that area. There's a Tim Hortons right down there in the middle of downtown, of course. There's a McDonald's that's right down there on Rideau Street, close to Parliament Hill. People were getting food and coffee from these chain restaurants, but I'm willing to bet Trudeau's not going to go after them because they're a chain, and there's somebody that could actually fight back if they were going to try and have repercussions against them. There was more than multiple times, even in some of those videos, you could see the protesters that were holding a Tim Hortons coffee. But they're not going to do it because they have an army of lawyers that could actually put up a problem for Trudeau. The intelligence agencies and Trudeau, I have no doubt that Trudeau had some hand in this, even though they'll probably deny it. But that hacker who ended up hacking Give, Send, Go, well, he has a whole history of working for a lot of these intelligence agencies. He's worked for the FBI. He's worked for CSIS. I think I saw that he worked for the RCMP, though I could be wrong on that. Not really surprised. But it seems very obvious that these intelligence agencies, probably under the instruction of the Prime Minister, got this guy to hack into the information of Give, Send, Go, so that way they could make it public, especially because the CBC was the one who printed this, and then Justin Trudeau used their information as a justification to enact the Emergency Measures Act. So there was one big cabal in order to put these people's information out there publicly, so that way they could shame these people, they could go after these people, and then they could have other people, other citizens that could go after them. Like there was one woman that was on Fox News just the other day. She owns a gelato store across Ontario, I think it is, a couple of them anyway, and she's been targeted because of this by people. She said that one store in southern Ontario of hers was, there was someone left, I think it was a sign or spray painted on it. I can't remember exactly the way it was done, but they made this big public message on her store that said that this woman supports terrorists. So it was a deliberate action by the government in order to try and punish people who are fighting back against them. And now despite the fact that the protests have been more forced out and there are pockets of resistance still in the Ottawa area, the government is claiming that the Emergency Measures Act needs to remain in place because of the possibility of future convoys. The possibility, even though when he enacted this, he said it was very specific and localized. So it would be places like Ottawa where it was going to affect because of what was going on here. And I don't know what's going on because as I'm recording this is when they're supposed to do the whole vote on the Emergencies Act. So I don't know as of now what the outcome is of that. But he's using it as a justification to keep his powers going. Also on top of that, there were people that were being told, there's a video. I don't know if I have it still. I'll see if I can find it. But it's very important because it had somebody that was walking downtown that was being told by the police that no form of protest was going to be tolerated. Now, I remember when the government and people like Bob Ray, that retard Bob Ray, was saying that this all had to do, like it had to work within the confines of the charter. Actually, I found it. I found the video. It all had to work in the confines of the charter so that way people's charter rights wouldn't be violated. But the thing is these cops are not saying that if you're protesting with the convoy, it will be tolerated. They're saying no protest will be tolerated. So if you decide to go down there to protest, I don't know, GMOs or something, then that would not be tolerated. Let's see, here it is.
Yeah, I'm gonna head to the War Memorial after I see what's going on down here. I feel like these police might tell me to turn around. Hey, what's up, man? I'm good. What's up? Just walking around.
That's fine. We're just telling people that if you're here, any kind of protest is not going to be tolerated.
I'm not protesting.
That's fine. We're just warning people. That's all.
Yeah.
We're just warning people that every kind of protest is not going to be tolerated today. People are going to get arrested for that.
Yeah.
So we're just making sure everybody's okay too and everybody feels safe around.
Fucking Twitter video.
It's just walking around, okay?
That every kind of protest is not going to be tolerated today.
Any form of protest is not going to be tolerated. It is your charter right to be able to protest. And now, because of the Emergencies Act, that, underneath the Trudeau government, is not allowed. This was always the problem that people had. And then it took them no time for people like Chrystia Freeland to say, that they are going to make some of the measures inside of the Emergencies Act, some of the things they're putting in place to become permanent. Trudeau is looking for a reason to make this permanent. He's always been a man that wants power. We know he rules his party with an iron fist. He doesn't accept any sort of dissent. We saw what happened to Jody Wilson-Raybould when she put up resistance during the SNC Lavalin. He tried to throw her under the bus, and then she's out of the cabinet, she's out of the party. Even there was one Liberal MP, I remember the story a while ago, where he thought that Trudeau's gun legislation was going too far, and the reports are that Trudeau just lost it on him in a cabinet meeting. I think it was a cabinet meeting. It may have been just a party meeting. But anyway, this is the person that he is. He's a man that wants power. He wants a vice grip on power. And the thing is I don't care whether it's true or whether it's a meme about him being Castro's son, but he acts like he's a Castro. I mean, he looks like it too. This is why the meme has so much sustainability, why people still talk about it and people still use pictures of it, because he looks so much like Fidel Castro over the years, and now he's acting like the man. And the thing is that just a day before all this took place, you had Foreign Affairs Canada that was putting out a public message about how they were condemning Cuba because in 2021 there were protests that took place down there, and there were just the actions of the authorities down there, and there were people that were imprisoned unjustly and all this. And not even 24 hours later, they were doing the exact same thing. This is your country now, Canada. This is the country that you live in now. And a lot of the people that have shown support for the police, a lot of the people that support Trudeau and his Emergency Measures Act, they are the ones that have allowed this to take place. They are the ones who are are the reason we're in this situation that we're in today. If there was overwhelming support for what these people wanted to do, the truckers, then we wouldn't be dealing with this, but we are. And the cops have played their role. I remember on the 18th when I was down there, I met a guy. Nice guy. Dogs are barking. Sorry, I guess someone's here. I met a guy. He was from another part of the country. I'm not really going to give any details of that, but I met him. And we were chatting and everything about what was going on. This is when the picture I show, we were standing on the line. And I said to him, the thing is that these cops, they made their decision. They made their decision to stand apart from us. And the thing was, too, is surprising me, is that some of the cops, just the looks they were giving, was a look of pure hatred. Pure hatred is what was in their eyes. And you can see it in some of the leaked messages. There were leaked messages of them. And some of the things that they were saying, they were raring to go to break some skulls. They were looking for a reason to start using that baton to crack people's heads. They used a line, something, I'm paraphrasing because I can't remember the exact line, but something like, they're going to feel our jackboots. So a lot of these cops, they made their decision. There are good cops that decided not to go along with this. They ended up quitting the force because of it. They're not going to be a part of this. But those people in Ottawa made a choice. Because the thing is that even this guy I was talking to, I told him he made a choice. And, he's saying, like, some people were told to come here. And, if they don't, that's a black mark on them for the future if they want, for instance, promotions of such. But they could have made that choice. Sure, it would maybe affect their career, but they could maybe sleep with themselves. They could live with themselves. And even Dan Dix on the next day, the 20th, yesterday, I'm recording this on the 21st, on the 20th, when he was doing his rounds downtown, he was talking to a couple cops where he says, you're on the wrong side of history, right? And they even said, yeah, we know. Even the good ones right now, they still made a choice to be where they are. For instance, there's probably one you've all seen, and actually I got it over here so we can watch it. This was actually one of the nice things that I did see from that day, but still there's something about it that we got to discuss. This was one of the nice events. It was this cop was actually engaging with the people. He was being, they asked him questions. He would respond to them. He was talking to them. He was treating them like a human being. And then they asked him for hugs, and he was giving out hugs.
Hugging here, beautiful to see. Let's capture these moments with the officers.
What about a
Beautiful.
fist bump? What about a fist
It's awesome.
bump?
All right. This is great to see this officer coming around.
Oh, there's Dan Dix back there. But anyway, the thing is that it's a nice moment. Two things about that is that right after that, and you can see it happening, his superior comes over to him and tells him to stop. No, you don't hug these protesters. You don't treat them like a human being. But this is actually why amongst the protesters, they really liked this guy. He was one of the only cops, if not the only cop, that were treating these people as humans. And that's really a lot of what people in this situation were looking for. They wanted to be treated like humans, not like piñatas. But even so, this guy has the humanity that we want to see in cops. He still made a choice to be there. He still made a choice to stand on that line. He could have right there dropped his equipment and said, I'm not doing this. Come over to the protester side, or doesn't even have to come over and join the protesters. It's just said, I'm not doing this, and walked away. And the protesters would no longer have had a problem with him. That would have been it. Thank you for doing this. But he still made a choice to stand on that line. Still do the bidding of the government of Justin Trudeau. So that still has to be taken into consideration. This is the one thing about a lot of people, especially on the more conservative-minded, and I've been there too. I've done this. You can go back a few years and find videos of me doing this where we're kind of praising cops, the whole thin blue line thing, about how we respect our cops, we love our cops, but at the end of the day, they've proven that they're willing to turn against the people. And that's something that can't be forgiven. I don't really think I have any more to say on the matter, so I'm just going to leave it there. There's some other things about what's going on now that I think needs to be addressed, but I've already droned on for like 45 minutes. I'm sure most people are going to check out before now. But anyway, I just wanted to cover what was going on this weekend. I'm sure most of you have seen it, but it's something that we can never forget. This happened. The cops did this against us. The government did this against us. And it's not going to stop. They've already announced that their plan is to pursue these people and go after them and press charges. And there's going to be financial repercussions, which could mean fines, but I'm pretty sure they're talking about freezing bank accounts. This is going to be the new thing. Freezing bank accounts are going to become a regular thing now for a lot of people. This is the future, Canada. You either got to get used to it, or now is the time to start fighting back. Anyway, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time. I'm Adrian Lloyd. This is just my stupid opinion.